Welcome to the Fret Frontier. Today we're going to be exploring acoustic blues on the baritone ukulele. Guitar players get to do this. Can we do that on our baritone ukulele? Yes, indeed we can. With our baritone ukulele, we have the first 4 strings of the guitar. So in the example that I just played on the guitar, you'll notice that the thumb was playing the accompaniment or a bass line representing the 12-bar blues progression on the 6th string and the 5th string. On our baritone, we don't have the 5th string and the 6th string. But the way we get that sound is to do the 12-bar blues, making sure that we have a bass note that can represent the root chord and another bass note that can represent the 4 chord. Here's the progression that you would use for a quick 4 12-bar blues pattern. A quick 4 just means that we're going to switch to the 4 chord in the second measure. So you'll see in the diagram here we have 1, 4, followed by 1 again, and it's broken out for our 12 bars all the way through. What we'll do is we're going to play this in the key of D. The way we're getting that is we're thinking, well, we want our root note or our root chord to be D because that's the string that we have open here for our bass. So will this work? If we think in the key of D, D is the root, and then if we count out from D, I'll show you the D scale now, you'll see that the 4th degree or the 4th note that you're going to find in the key of D will be G. So we have D, E, F, G. So our 1 is D and our 4 is G. So that's going to work out perfectly. Now we have 2 notes representing our chord progression. First of all, I'll show you the chords. So when we take this chart, this quick 4 form, and we change the 1s and the 4s and the 5s into the actual chords, we're going to use 7th chords. And what we'll have here, our root chord will be the D7. Fingering you'll see on the screen now. Okay, we'll have our G7 chord. That's our 4 chord. And then our 5 chord will be the A7. Okay, so now we're going to play through that quick 4 form pattern using the chords that would be representing those particular tones in that scale. And I'll show you that chart there on the screen. We're just going to play downstrokes. We're going to play 4 beats per measure, 1 quarter note downstrum for each beat. Okay, so when we follow along, we're going to be playing D7 for 4 strums. 1, 2, 3, 4, followed by G7. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, play it with me now. We're going to go through the 12-bar blues using the quick 4 form in key of D. 1, 2, 3, 4. G7, D7, G7, D7, A7, G7, D7, A7, so what we'll do now is we'll play that same quick 4 form diagram using just the bass notes. So each quarter note will be a bass note instead. For D7, we'll play the 4th string open. For G7, we'll play the 3rd string open. And then for A7, the A note is the 2nd fret of the 3rd string. Okay, so now we have our notes. Play it with me. We'll go through the quick 4 form using just the bass notes. D7. 1, 2, 3, 4. G7. 2, 3, 4. D7. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. G7. 1, 2, 3, 4. D7. A7, 2, 3, 4, G7, 1, 2, 3, 4, D7, A7. Okay, so now that we've selected our strings to represent our accompaniment and our bass strings here, our 4th and 3rd string, we'll take a look at what we have available to us on our 1st and 2nd string for melodic notes. First of all, we'll take a look at just a map of the D major scale. These are all the notes available in D major, showing them as the note names, and then the diagram underneath it will show you the position or the numbers in the scale. So we're not going through all the theory for how the major scales are built here. We're just taking a look at this for information purposes so you have an idea of how you map these notes out. So music theory is just that. It's theory. It gives you a guideline or guidepost to make your best selections to have successful results, but it's still theory. What always is the guide for you, or the final decider, is your ear. Does it sound good? Do you like listening to it? So it's music theory. It's not music fact. It helps guide your exploration so you can find those notes that are most likely to give you success as you're playing. So let's take a look at our D major scale again. Underneath we see the note numbers that we're going to be working with in the major scale. To get to our blues scale, we are going to flat the 3rd degree. We're going to make it 1/2 step lower. We're going to flat the 7th degree, making it 1/2 step lower. And then we're going to drop the 2nd degree and the 6th degree. Now I made these adjustments in these 2 diagrams that you see now. There are the note names. Underneath that, you'll see the numbers of the scale that we'll be playing. Let's play that together now. The sound of that D blues scale. Going on the 2nd string, your baritone ukulele. Start off with our 3rd fret D, 6th fret F, 8th fret G, 10th fret A, 13th fret C, and then if we want to get a D, we'll go up to that 15th fret. Okay, that's what that sounds like. And then if we want to pick up the other note that would precede the D here, it's still in the scale, we have this C. That will be our full selection of notes on the 2nd string. So now we can play that scale again. Let's do it starting with our D here. So we start off with our root, but now let's go up the 1st string. So we have our D, 2nd string, 3rd fret. Then we're moving to the 1st string. 1st fret, we have our F, G on the 3rd fret, A on the 5th fret, C on the 8th fret, D on the 10th fret, and now we've done a full octave there. We could keep going if we wanted to. We have another F here that we could add on the 13th fret to finish it off. And we're, for our purposes, in these exercises and learning how to do some improvisation along with our bass line, giving us a nice constant bass acoustic blues, we'll be stopping at that 13th fret using these 2 strings. Okay, so now we have our notes. So in this section of this episode, we're going to put together what we learned so far. We're going to take some of our notes that we have learned to be notes that are going to give us good success. They're going to sound good in the blues, in D, along with our 12-bar blues progression done as a bass line for accompaniment. The way that we're going to do this, you'll see on this screen, we'll take a look at the first 4 bars. We'll take a look at the first bar. So we're going to work on the D7 chord. What we will be taking are the notes in the first 3 frets of our safe notes, or our notes from our blues scale that we know we could feel pretty confident are going to sound good, and that's these. So on the first string, we have the 3rd fret and the 1st fret. On the 2nd string, we have the 3rd fret and the 1st fret. And our bass note is going to be D. That's the chord that we're playing against, D7. So that looks like this. You'll see the sample on the screen now. What we're going to do is use our thumb for the bass note, the open D. And you can use either your 2nd or your 1st finger to play these additional notes. One thing you might want to do is use your 2nd finger on the 1st string and your 1st finger on the 2nd string, or you could use your index finger on everything, whatever feels good to you to get started. And then later you can decide what you like the most to make adjustments. So I'll play it with the 2nd finger on the 1st string and the 1st finger on the 2nd string as I play the notes. So what I will be doing is always striking on quarter notes for now, just solid quarter notes. I'm going to always hit my bass note, and I'll be playing a note from my scale in this position on every beat. Sounds like this. Okay, play it with me. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, now in the next bar, G7, the only thing we're going to change is the bass note. These notes will sound good with all of our chords in this progression. So we're going to continue this same practice of these notes, just memorizing the notes in this little area that are available to us, playing them along with the bass note of that particular chord. So we're constantly hearing everything go together. So a holistic thing. You want to engage your ears into this all the time. So you're not just playing rote, trying to memorize notes or memorize where you put your fingers. You want to hear it holistically. It'll make it more enjoyable, and it'll make it easier for you to put it together. So now we're going to go on to the G chord. The only thing that changes now is our thumb is going to move over to that 3rd string. We're playing the same notes on the first 2 strings, and it will sound like this. I'll play it first. Okay, play it with me. Okay, and now we'll add on the last 2 measures of D7. So we're playing that same phrase again, just playing the notes in the order that they appear. There's very few places where you can get away with just playing the scale and have it sound pretty okay. This sounds pretty okay. So now we're going to go back to our D7. So the thumb moves back to the 4th string, playing that same pattern. And then we're going to resolve it, which means we'll make it sound kind of like it ended, like it's the end of a sentence, by playing the 3rd fret of the 2nd string. And we play our D bass note, but then we continue that bass note, because remember, for every quarter note, we want that constant bass moving along, so we always know where we are. We know what chord we're on. So here we go. So it's that 2nd string and 4th string together, then the 4th string by itself for 3 more beats. So now let's play that whole line together slowly. 1, 2, 3, 4. right, so now you've played the first 4 bars of your 12-bar blues, accompanying yourself. So you have a melody line going on the top, and you can sing that melody line. Just get it in your head. Think about how that melody line sounds. It's just the scale, but it's something that you can recognize. Ba, 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 ba. And that helps you to connect what you're hearing through all different ways of thinking about it. So you can sing it while you're playing it. You can play your bass line while you're playing the melody. It just kind of gets in your head, and it becomes your little song that you're thinking of when you're playing. All right, let's move on to our next collection of 4 bars. So here we're going to have G7 for 2 bars and D7 for 2 bars. So basically, now you have the pattern. So we're doing riff-based blues or theme-based blues. So we're doing a repetitive pattern as we go through here, making sort of a melodic line. And you can mix this up as you get comfortable with it and create all different kinds of themes. And when we bring it alive, we'll create a more bouncy theme. We'll put some swing into it. But right now, we're just doing solid quarter notes. So when we come on to the next line, this is something that you've already learned if you've become comfortable with the first 4 bars. So we're playing our same little theme. We're using our G as the bass because we're on the G7 chord. And let's continue. 1, 2, 3, 4, G7. We'll repeat that again. Now we're back to D7. And then we resolve it. All right, very good. Let's try what we've learned so far. Let's put those 8 bars together. Play it with me. We'll do it slowly. 2, 3, 4. G, D7, D7, G7, All right, so now you've gotten through the first 8 bars. Now we're going to do our last 4 bars. We'll be replacing this with a turnaround in the next episode, but for now, we're just following that same bass line. We're going to do our bass line A, G, D, A, following our chords, and we're just going to hit one whole note. And here what we're practicing basically give you an opportunity just to practice moving your thumb around a little bit and changing your bass note, but still hearing a melody note as you're going along here. For the A, we're going to put our bass note where we had played it before, earlier in the episode, where we have our 2nd finger on the 3rd fret. And we're going to choose this time a note that's not actually in our little pattern. We're going to do the open E, because it's music theory, not music fact. And what we're doing is we're leveraging the sound of that A7 chord, right? It has that open E on there, on that first string. So we're going to use that. Sounds nice. So we're just going to do the A bass note along with the E. We're just hitting the E one time. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's how we're handling the A7. Then we're going to move to the G7. We're going to hit our G open on the 3rd string. And we're just going to play 1st finger, 1st fret. On that, we're basically following that G7 chord, right? We're choosing that note there. It's going to sound nice. So we do those 2 notes together. 1st finger, 1st fret, 1st string, and then open 3rd string. 1, 2, 3, 4. And following the same principle, we're going to play D with our D. So here's our 3rd finger, 3rd fret, 2nd string, and D open for our 3rd fret here in this area. 2, 3, 4, and then back to our A7. So play that whole line with me. Let's do it together. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, let's take it end to end. We're going to play it all the way through slowly. One thing you can try, make it sound a little more bluesy, is take your palm and let it rest on your bridge, right back here. Only touching, don't let the fleshy part of your palm touch anything more than your 4th string and your 3rd string. So the difference is, like, I'll give you an example. And then with it muted, just takes the edge off instead of it ringing out, gives it more of a percussive quality. Okay, so if you can try the mute, I'll do the mute on this. Go ahead and do that. Otherwise, just play it through regularly, following the chart that you see up on the screen, and we'll play it end to end now. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, now we've gone through the information, we've gotten the coordination. Join me in the next episode to bring this alive. Thank you so much for joining me. Can I have a high five? Here we go.